We're just waiting for it. And we are live. Welcome to the Deal Champs podcast. Dean Rogers, Mr. Captain America, couldn't beat a basic fucking common cold and make it on the podcast today. He said he fell asleep at his computer last night and he couldn't make it. I'll post screenshots to my Instagram as proof in the group chat. So Dean said he's too tired. He can't do it. So I hit up one of our base hitters, Mr. Ian Horowitz, coming in, pinch hitting, stepping in for Mr. Captain America. Thanks so much for coming on, Ian.
Yeah, man. I just hope I can live up to the prestige of Captain America. I'll do my best. We'll see what we can do. I brought the beard. I'm ready to talk, and let's do this, boys.
I love it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm low-key kind of excited to have Ian on, dude. I felt like the situation could have been a lot worse for a last-minute replacement, dude. So it's good,
Hey,
man.
right?
Ready for Ian.
I will do anything for you guys. This is the coolest gift that I've ever gotten, boys. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Everyone that comes through is like, oh, yo, that is so cool. So I appreciate you guys.
Look at those bobbleheads. Shout out to Jen Pritchard for coming through with the bobbleheads, dude. The bobbleheads.
Yeah.
That took a lot of effort. There was about 1,000 text messages that went back and forth to get your beard and all your shit dialed in, dude. So yeah, shout out to my wife, Jen. She came through.
Amen.
Real quick, my name's Stratton Brown. I'm currently doing a challenge of 0 to $1 million net wholesaling houses across the country. We've scaled 2 other businesses to 7 figures using virtual assistants, and we have a 7-figure real estate portfolio, which plays right into the bullshit of, are you a millionaire if you do not have $1 million net liquid, like liquidatable today? And that'll be one of our topics today. We have the master of hair. The hair is back in the hat today, Mr. Jason Pritchard.
Hair's in the hat. Just came back from the gym. What's up, guys? It's Jason Pritchard, one of your other co-hosts. Backstory on me is worked in corporate America for about 15 years. Hated my job. Was very unhappy with life. We burned all the boats in 2014 and have not looked back since. We've done close to 450 deals now. We've got a rental portfolio in Central California of just over 100 units. And our goal with this podcast, we say every single week, is to try to transfer as many of our experiences, our skills, to all of you guys that are tuning in and listening so you can learn from our mistakes and we can take your learning curve and shorten it up and you can find success faster than us, man. So excited. We've got some cool topics to talk about today. So excited to dive into it.
We have Mr. Carhartt, Ian Horowitz, the master of storage. You need a Carhartt fucking sponsorship, bro, with all the hats.
I'm working on it. I'm working on my affiliate link. But again, thank you for having me. My name's Ian Horowitz with Equity Warehouse. My business partner and I, we were both firemen for the city of Baltimore and have grown a big portfolio, upwards of almost 9 figures. And I'm just here to help out my boys. I don't know the how this show works, but I'm ready. Let's go.
Let's run it.
Let's run it, bro. So first topic I think is, should you really be considered a millionaire if you don't have $1 million net in the bank? I think for billionaires, it's a little bit different, but I see everybody claiming to be a millionaire on social media. And if it's not liquid, is it really like, are you really a millionaire? The billionaires is different because it's paper, it's stocks, you know, like it's not like they have $1 billion, like Elon Musk probably has $1 billion liquid around. But I just don't think it is. Like if you have a 7-figure real estate portfolio, you have a certain amount of net worth. Even if your net worth is worth 7 figures in real estate, I don't think you're a millionaire. You are, but like
I'll chime in.
Come on, bro.
I'll chime in, bro. The way that I've always kind of looked at it, and you guys correct me if you think I'm wrong, is the formula that we use to calculate our net worth is we take all the assets we own, we subtract any liabilities we have, whatever that number is that's left over, that's kind of where we're at. And so for me, I referred to myself as a millionaire once we had $1 million in equity in all of our properties and we ran everything through that formula. And I always felt like it was. And even nowadays, there'll be times where we run our account below $1 million because I don't necessarily need $1 million in liquid cash sitting in my bank account at all times. Frankly, I think it can be irresponsible sometimes to have that much money there sitting there if you don't need it. And so I would go against what you said, bro. I think you can call yourself a millionaire if you have $1 million in equity in your assets after you subtract all your debt. Ian, I don't know. What do you think, bro?
Yeah, I mean, I see both sides of it because, you know, we've amassed a portfolio that's, you know, climbing up to that $100 million mark. And it's like, there's some days, and like, if you ever listen to Sam Zell's book, Am I Being Too Subtle? He talks about having billions of dollars of real estate and not being able to make payroll the following week. And he's sweating bullets. And there are times that comes up, but in the same sense, it's like, you're a millionaire, but I do agree that there is something about being liquid and being a millionaire in that sense. Side by side with that, Jason, I mean, I agree. I'm not trying to dodge this question by any means. I'll give you my final thought at the end. But if you have $1 million in the bank, and I think Grant Cardone does a pretty good job talking about it. I'm not a big fan of the guy, but he does a pretty good job talking about it. He's like, I don't want money in my bank account. I want it out working for me. So there is this like finite line of like, how much cash do you hang on to? You know, I know what my comfort level is. I know what our business comfort level it is. And at times I'm just like, I don't want all this money on hand. So in the end, I do think you can call yourself a millionaire with the old Barry Bonds asterisks to say, hey, I'm a millionaire, but my equity's out working for me. And I'm actually going to flip the question on Strat and say, how about all the guys out there saying, I got a 7-figure business and they think they're millionaires? You're not a millionaire. Like, you're not.
Oh, bro, you're not a millionaire. You're not a millionaire.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
You're definitely not, because I mean, we go down a whole nother road of EBITDA and valuations and everything else. And you're still not, I wouldn't even consider you being a millionaire unless you've had an offer on the table on that company, right? Because it's only worth as much as someone is willing to pay you. Even someone who has a $5 million wholesaling company, and that's all you do, you never bought any assets, that company is worth nothing.
Correct.
Like you wouldn't be worth a millionaire because you can't sell the asset.
Correct. That is
so like, and that's why I don't ever say like, yeah, I'm a multi-millionaire. Like, yeah, we've scaled stuff to 7 figures, but one of them's been at like 80% margins. But is that a millionaire? No.
I'm getting lots of activity in my IG chat. Panda Paul, BJJ Blue Belt says, I think you're still a millionaire. Why would you want it net in the bank? Isaiah Navarez said the bank only insures your first 250K. I think if you guys have thoughts on this, drop them in the chat, either on Facebook or on the IG. Let us know. Do you need to have $1 million in cash to consider?
And it may not be cash, but I think treasuries, like short-term treasuries,
liquid, something
stocks,
liquid.
like liquid.
Yeah.
Like being able to actually liquidate.
Yeah, and that's the biggest problem with real estate. It's an illiquid asset, right? Like, we're in the process of selling some of our storage portfolio and some other assets that we're ready to cut loose. And it's like, dude, I can taste the payday. But in the same sense, like, that's not real. And I think a lot of people, I'm just going to take this conversation one step further, and hopefully people are following me, is, we were legacy owners for a real long time. We talked about never selling. But then you end up in the same situation of, man, I got $5 million of equity locked up that I can't touch and I can't spend. And it actually makes more sense to sell it, potentially pay the tax, and go out and redeploy another new $3 million on top of your original money and continue to grow and get better and better and better. For us, what we've decided to do this year is every month we sit down, we talk, we look, bottom 20%, properties that give us headaches, people that we don't want to deal with, stuff that's an operational drag, hits the cutting room floor, and we look to sell it, dispose of it, or make it better. And if it doesn't meet those cuts, we just keep it moving and cut our losses and get it out the door. So for us, it's always just reorganizing the portfolio, getting better and better and better. So those cash dividends produce to the point that hopefully you have $1 million in the bank and that money is working for you at such an alarming rate that you can't keep up, that you have to store that much cash.
I love that. And real estate, and honestly, I mean, there is a balance here. And I've talked openly with you about this, Strat. Beginning of 2023, I mean, we took a 6-figure loss in the first quarter of 2023, and we made a decision in the beginning of the year to liquidate some of our rental properties, right? So we looked at like 4 or 5 rental single families that we own that we had a bunch of equity in that didn't really fit kind of our long-term holding strategy. And we sold them, but it took fucking 6 months to sell through all of those things, dude. And we freed up $500,000 in capital. But if I needed that money, like sometime before that 6-month window, when I had liquidated everything, I would have been in a jam. So there is a balance that you need to have where you keep the right amount of operating capital in your bank. And I think this will lead to another question here. what's that number, right? So what is the number that we all feel like, both from personal expenses, business expenses, that's a safe number to have, where it's like, hey, we're not going to run below. This is kind of the red line here, and we're not going to come below and dip below this threshold. What do you guys think that is?
It depends. I think it all depends, bro. Like it's there, and Ian gets that joke because we were in a fucking mastermind where the studio. Oh, well, it depends.
It depends.
But like with all magicians, bro, you should say you should have 6 months worth of reserves in place. My payroll on that company was $80,000 a month. We were not gonna have that much liquid in that account for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's a service-based business, so we have a faster cash conversion cycle. But I knew hey, you got to have enough at least for a month's worth of payroll.
Yeah.
Like a month or at least for 2 weeks, because you know you can invoice the week after that. That was for that company. For like my personal stuff, I like to have a certain amount to where I feel safe. And I know like I don't have to panic about our bills being paid for a certain amount of months. Dean, when me and Dean talked about this, Dean doesn't want to go less than $1 million ever because he has financial PTSD and he just wants to feel safe and it makes his dick feel big. Right?
Yeah. My business partner is similar with that financial PTSD. So in the business, we try to keep 2 to 3 months reserve on every single property of operating expense while still building capital reserve. So there's some times where I'm like, dude, we're not spitting out any cash because we keep saving it. Me personally, I'm more of like just a flat number. You know, it's usually a couple months. You know, there's some days where I'm like, I only need 50 grand in the bank, and there's other days I'm like, I need $500,000 in the bank, right? It all varies, and it's just like I don't know what personally, but that's my personal life. I don't have capital investors. I don't have employees relying on me. I can run my life how I want as long as I'm still financeable. But yeah, man, I don't want to say it depends, but you need to know what makes you tick, right? Like for my business partner, Dean, where they have that issue, they need guys like us that are like, yo, dude, come on, we need to distribute some money.
Push a little bit.
And then we also need dudes like that to keep us reeled in. Otherwise, I'd have every dollar out at every chance I can.
Yeah.
You guys shouldn't have hosted your event at a casino, man. There was a couple long nights in there. So, but you know, you got to know what makes you tick. So
checks and balances are important. And then, and let me pose this question to you. Somebody in my IG chat said, who is it here? I can't pronounce the screen name, but it says, who really cares about the label, quote unquote, millionaires? How do you guys feel about that? Who cares about that label?
You know, there's some days, especially like you need to put certain things on a pedestal. And for me, for a long time, it was quitting the fire department. And I needed that. I wanted that allure of the $1 million goal. I had to drive and try to be that. I want to say be that guy, but I had to work towards something. And then once you achieve it, yeah, dude, you hit that mountaintop and it's like, who gives a shit next? But you still need those goals sometimes to motivate you. Yeah, things change all the time. Now it's more family, but I still have this vision of this private jet and this fishing boat because I want something to work towards personally that just makes me feel good. Because if I knew I got it, great. And if I fail and don't make it, it is what it is. But I was striving towards this unobtainable goal in my mind that one day if I achieved it, amazing. And if not, we worked really hard towards that. And so be it. And we had a lot of financial security to get in there.
I love that. That's the answer, dude. It's you need a target to shoot for. It isn't about, at least for me, it's not about the money because you're 100% right. Like it was a very cool feeling the very first time, like I had $1 million in the bank and I looked at my bank account and there were 7 figures in there. I was like, shit, dude, this feels really good. That wore off like very quickly. And now it doesn't even matter. You know what happens to your life after you make $1 million? Nothing, dude. Your life doesn't really change, dude. And I felt that same way when I started making $100,000 a year in corporate America. So for the person that asked that question, things are not going to change long term. And I don't think you should do it because of but it is okay to set targets and have milestone you check off to give you a accomplishment to feel like, fuck, dude, what am I doing all this damn work for? You know what I mean? And then you get there, you get past it. And then it's like, well, that was easier than I thought it was going to be. What if I set the bar to 10 million in the bank? What would happen if I had worked to that target the whole time, dude? So it's a good way to measure.
Ian, whenever we raise our fingers, we're not ever telling you to stop. It's just so me and Jason don't cut each other off.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a couple things. Right next to me, I have my vision board. I probably have $1 million worth of watches on that vision board between Richard Mills and Audemars Piguet's. I have a Ferrari Pista. I have a $29 million beach house in Malibu on there. I got a Rolls, and then I have a private jet. And then in front of me, I have a check that says Stratton Brown sold a company for $80 million on 10/4/27. For me, a lot of it is you have to chase something. And when you chase after a goal, you think differently. And so I'll use this for our company. We're owed 7 figures for our ERC stuff. We're waiting on a bunch of money, right? And so I came to the point where I was like, hey, that money's never coming. It'll come, but like we can't rely on it. And so I sat down and I was like, how do I make $1 million net in the next 6 months? Right. That's how I came up with this challenge. I was like, right now, like, how can I just make that money back? And so it's important to place value on those goals and like the million, because it makes you think about problems differently. Because if you're only solving for $100 problem, that's all you're ever going to get. If I'm solving for $1 million problem, I'm going to get a significantly different outcome. That's why I have the $80 million check. How can I solve for that outcome instead? And then is it worth being called a millionaire? For me, a lot of it is, bro. And I know Jason's this way. And I was with Sam Lens Money, Jason. Half of this shit is being that fucking guy who could build a company and do it, and then still be a good dad, and then still be the fucking man.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point, bro. Like the type of businessman, the type of man that you have to be to have a jet or to have a $200,000 watch or whatever. You have to really evolve into a higher, better version of yourself to even get to a space where you can do that responsibly, not for a flex, but where you can say, I can make a decision like that and I can do it and it doesn't impact me financially. We would have to become completely different versions of us. So a lot of it is you have this target, but so much of it is who do I need to become this version of this person that can do this? And that's a really cool idea. The progression, the natural progression and just progress over time is a big reason why it's not about the thing. It's not about the material thing. It's about the type of person you have to be to get there, dude. And when you're wired that way, you get it. And then you're like, all right, let's raise the bar a little bit higher and see what would happen if I have to stretch a little bit higher.
Well, but that's 90% of the issue with most businesses. People don't want to, when they go from 0 to $1 million, it takes a certain skill set. And then $1 million to $5 million, it takes another skill set, and 5 to 10. And you got to blow it up and you got to start over, and it effing sucks, dude. Like, I'll just straight up be honest with you, because we've gone through it several times now and it kills. But to get to that next level, you have to do it. And Jason, I was going to ask you, I know I'm a guest on your guys' show, but I'm curious, like, what do you think those things that you have to change? Like, if someone wants to look at it and be like, bro, you know what, Jay, you're right. Like, how do I identify what I got to change to get into that right mental mindset and like go, you know?
I think for me, the season, and I'm in this transition right now, Ian, it's coming from a person where as a one-man army or a small team, there's only so much that you can do. So the evolution that Jason is going through right now is, how do I take all the skills that are in me that have allowed me to do this and transfer them to 2 or 3 key people on my team and then let them run and manage the business? And you have to become a different person like that. So scaling then becomes, how many layers of leadership do we need in order to scale to the number that where we need to be, right? And then it becomes, can the person that you're developing do that? And we talk about this a lot. It's one thing to transfer it to one person, but can they transfer it to a team of 10 people, right? That's a different skill set when you're trying to transfer your skills and get them to stick. And then to me, it's how far do we want to go at that point? So I'm going through that evolution right now. We're on the other side of some changes where my team has gone from 3 or 4 people to 12 now, right? And we're dealing with the growing pains of having larger overhead, having more direct reports, having all of these things that we need to do. But it's that progression, dude, that gets me excited, because now, like you said, we're running a different business now. So now I'm not Jason going out doing deals. It's not the same shit that I've been doing for the last however many years, dude. It feels new, fresh, and exciting. And that's a really cool way to keep yourself engaged, because the way that we're wired, and I feel like most entrepreneurs are wired, they need to be constantly doing something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it can't be the same thing all the time for 10 or 20 years. Like, the business in it itself can change, but we need to have new things that we're doing. So that's what I'm going through right now.
Yeah. How many times in this journey where you started adding employees, you're like, you know what, maybe I should go backwards and like I don't say toss it in, just be like, yeah, is this the right idea? Does this make sense? Is is this really worth it? Have you had that yet?
Yeah, I have it all the time, dude. Because like you said, as soon as you butt up against that plateau and then you have that breakthrough, then you all of a sudden walk into a new season of your life where there's a big skill gap that you've got to develop. And it honestly, there's a challenge, I think, sometimes for us as high performers where we've mastered the skills at this level. So we feel really good, right? And then it's like, shit, dude, like, I don't even know what I'm doing here now, dude. And that in and of itself can cause the question of, my business before was pretty good. I mean, I was making good money. I'm fine. I don't really need to do all this damn work. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to have all the stress of doing this. So maybe I should just chill for a little bit, right? And I always feel like when I have found myself in that space, the reason behind why you're doing this is really important. We've all heard people say you got to have a really big why. And I think that is the time where the why becomes important. It's like, why am I doing this? Because if it's just about money, you know, you're not going to keep pushing through and keep wanting to break through to all those plateaus.
But I think and this goes for all of us, the reason why, for me at this point, I know there will never be enough amount of money. It's like, who can I become? Yeah. And like, can I do it? Can I take a company to this massive level and still be a great dad and do all these things that I'm like concerned about? I think that's what I'd say most of us are about. I know Ian really well. Ian just wants to fucking do it. He's like, bro, I want to do it. I want to see what it looks like, what it feels like. Can I go build it? I don't care if people say I shouldn't do it. Let's just go see if we can make it happen.
Impact is a big thing too, bro. Like your ability, not just to impact, like a lot of my team, not a lot of them, all of my team members, their lives are different because they work for me. And that makes me feel really good. Like when we go to Deal Champs and we put the Deal Champs Summit on and you have all those people come and then we get all the positive feedback from them and how, you know, now they're doing a deal because they met somebody or something clicked when they were there. That's an amazing feeling, bro. Like that's a feeling to me that's even better than like hitting some huge rip on a deal and making a bunch of money, because you know now that that person's life is different because they met you or they were around you or something. And that's a really cool thing for me. And I think what really drives me, I get really charged up because of that. So now if we were able to impact 400 something people at Deal Champs, how do we impact 4,000 people, right? How do we, and we know that it's done because other people are already doing it. So it's not even a question of if it's possible, because we've already seen it happen, right? Now, how do Stratton and I and Dean become the kind of guys that can get 4,000 people into a room, captivate their attention for 2 days and transfer a lot of value to them? And then what does that look and feel like, dude? So the goalpost never stays the same, bro. It's always.
I chuckle because me and Stratton sat in a room of guys and gals that their whole goal was to just retire their job. And it's like, cool, I made $100,000 or $500,000 and I'll live on a minimalist lifestyle for the next several years and I'm chill. And I'm just like, I don't resonate with that. And both of us had dropped out of that mastermind. And it's no ill will. We learned a lot by learning from other people. And it was, well, I don't want to do that. Like, that is not who we are. Like, we have to go and grow, because I feel as though, and this could be wrong in a lot of people's eyes, but you stop growing, you're dead, man. And you started to hit the nail on the head of like employees and other people of impact. People say, well, why do you keep doing it? Because my employees and my team and the group of guys that we work with and gals, now it's like Monday was our monthly deal meeting. We sat down and said, what are we cutting and what are we doing next? And yes, me and Dan dictate some of what happens next, but we also say, hey, Ryan, hey, Andrew, hey, Raquel, what's the workload look like? Can you guys handle this? Do we need another team member? What makes them tick? And then we're all working towards a common goal. And there's a good clip going around right now. I'm not a Gary Vee fan either, but he talks about like motivating your employees, and their motivation's not the same as yours. And that they want to feel, some of them want to feel security. Some of them want promotion. Some of them want to be you. But knowing and recognizing what makes your team members clicks makes you better. And then you're the real millionaire. The real millionaire is the one who controls their own time. And I think that's really, it took 24 minutes to boil it down. It has nothing to do with money, boys and girls.
Time freedom.
It has everything to do with time.
Yeah.
So.
Hell yeah.
That's it.
Great riff. Ian, do you consistently look at your portfolio and look at a return on equity?
That's come up recently. And you know where we came from, where we were in a group of guys that was like, oh, just sell and get your $500,000 and you're good. And I was like, that's dumb. But as of recent, as we've started to grow, we have more capital investors and co-investors and co-lenders. It's like, well, my cash flow is X, my work is Y, and my equity is gigantic. Well, why would you keep that? That's kind of dumb right now, you know? And it's like, how do you streamline? How do you grow? How do you jump to the next asset class? And it's been a lot of that. Some of it's been the test of time. You know, we started in 2014. We've owned some houses for 10 years now. And it's like, holy shit, like we're in for 50 grand and those things are worth 250 grand. And we made cash flow all these years and rents have not kept up. So that has been something as of recent to say, well, what's the return on locked up equity that you can't spend, going back to the original point of this conversation. So,
so like when you're thinking about this, are you actively looking like, hey, you know what, let's give our investors returns? Because like investors are like, we still have like fiduciary duty. Like, you know what, bro, like we should just give them good returns. Like, let's just fucking sell it, give them the returns. Or are they on the same page as you to where, you know what, no matter what, Ian knows what he's doing. Ian's just going to do what's best.
No, so we set that, I don't mean to cut you off, but we set that expectation up front. Hey guys, you're going to co-invest with us. And best case scenario is we own this forever. And worst case scenario is we have to sell this in 5 years and we all have to pay taxes. And we set that expectation up front because we want to know that they're ride or die with us. And we call them co-investors. We don't call them LPs, and we're the GPs, and we're two separate classes. Those are my boys, dude. Like, you gotta remember, these are firemen, teachers, military. These are everybody that, like, they're taking their 25 grand they got, even though they qualify, but aren't the best money managers, and they're joining with us and helping us. And so for us, we feel like we really have a fiscal responsibility to operate at their best interest. And now that we're a few years in, it's like, hey, man, we can really do some cool stuff for some guys and buy even better assets should they decide to jump back in. And, well, will I say it's like, oh, well, we calculated X percent IRR, we're out. That's not it at all. A lot of it comes down to we're sitting on this much equity. We get this much cash flow. If it's under 7 years, we're kind of like, we're selling an apartment building that we really like out in West Virginia. And me, Dan, and our one partner, you know, we all cash flow 30 grand a year each off of that, doing nothing. So basically 100 grand a year, but we're about to sell it and make $1.2 million. And it's like, damn, 100 grand a year exchange for $1.2 million is a no brainer. Let's do it and roll to the next deal and go buy that $4 or $5 million asset. Let's get to the next level, you know?
Bro, I love that.
Love it.
Are there any assets you wish you wouldn't have ever sold? And a mutual mentor of mine and Jason's, Alan, says, he's like, bro, I wish I would have never sold those things. And then Brad talks about it too. It's like, I should have never sold that. Or I should have had that deal. And it's like, he just wishes he would have kept it all. But at the same time, bro, you need liquid cash to move forward and to trade it into assets.
So that's the thing. Like, we don't have an operating business in the sense that we don't wholesale regularly. We don't flip houses regularly. Our big equity pops and operate, you know, like an operating business come from there. Now, if I had a wholesale division, I would probably sit there and say, yeah, you know what? I'd probably be willing to keep these longer because I got to dump my cash somewhere and I don't need more cash like that, you know? So I would tend to agree with that. Like, I would agree in the sense that there's nothing that I have sold that I wish I have kept, but in the same sense, we haven't really sold a lot because we've always kept everything. So maybe in like 3 years, we can revisit that question and I'll let you know how I feel. What
about you, Jason? I've never sold anything.
Yeah, dude, we have sold some stuff, and there are a handful of properties where I was like, shit, man, I wish I would have kept that. Some of it was planned, like what I did at the beginning of 23, where it was like, I have to make a smart financial decision for the sake of like my business and my family, that we just need to liquidate these, and it is what it is. And we're going to detach from the emotional attachment to the properties, and other stuff that we bought, fixed, and sold. And there's a little sting of regret seeing, had I just hung on to this, you know what I mean? Like, damn, dude, I bought this house for 50 grand. It's worth 350 now. Like, I wish I would have just hung on to that. But at the end of the day, I don't think living in regret is good, bro. Like, for me, I'll use the example of the few properties that I sold beginning of last year, right? There's a couple that I wish I would have kept. And now I just use it as a learning lesson to say, hey, what put me in that position where I felt like I needed to sell this? Let's identify some of either the mistakes or wrong decisions that we made. And I don't even think I was being fast and loose, dude. We were just,
I don't think
we were just kind of at the mercy of that interest rate jumping, and we just didn't really know how it was going to impact us. So now we just need to be, a little bit more proactive and look at that. And maybe, I've been more adamant the last 2 years about having a stronger cash position, because at that time we were making money hand over fist, and I was fine. I was never redlining the account down to zero, but I would run it a lot lower than I am now. So now we've got the threshold for where I am willing to dip into my liquid capital. It's a little bit higher, right? So all you can do is learn from those things, dude, and just try not to repeat it. But there's definitely stuff, dude, that I wish I would have kept, but it is what it is. It's all what's gotten us here to this point, man.
I know this one isn't a topic that we were talking about, Jason, but Ian, talk about how at the beginning you wish you would have started a debt fund instead of done. I don't know if you want to talk about that. I think
I'm live on my Facebook page. I have no qualms about it. I look at it this way: equity sounds fun and cool, but do you have to have the right people with you, dude? Like K1s are a bitch. Like they are a pain to get out the door on time. Sometimes, again, it goes back to the illiquid investment. God forbid, Stratton, you're invested and something happened in a family emergency, and then I got to liquidate you, and then Jason wants to come in. There's a potential tax implication for you to get you back to par. So there's some nuances that I didn't realize, but offering equity got us to it got us there faster. Looking back on it, had I done a debt fund first, which I know is the new cool hot thing, but just raised our own debt and been like fiscally responsible in that sense, would have been interesting, because obviously you own all of it. Your time horizons changes, your responsibilities change. Yes, you still have investor co-lended into your deals, but you also have a little more bandwidth. You can do a little more, like the stuff that we own personally. I don't want to say we run it different, but we have a little more runway. We have a little more of, all right, well, let's get this other stuff done first, then we'll get to our own portfolio. So, do I wish? Some days yes, some days no. But in the end, it goes back to what we were talking about. It's just like we're working towards a common goal. We're helping our friends and family who don't have access to these type of deals, and they get to jump in with us. And it makes me feel good. So you know what? The gray hair, no hair on the head, is well worth all the drama to help out our friends and family. So
I love it.
And real quick for everybody, a debt fund is just you raise a bunch of money and you just have like 12% you're paying day one. Where with like a syndication, it's a little bit different. You give them equity.
They're not actually participating in the deal. That's I think the big thing, right? They don't have an ownership interest or an equity stake in that property. You're just paying them a return on the money that you're doing when you own it.
Yeah, so some interesting evolutions. Again, I wouldn't know this unless I started raising equity. Our accountant, she said, well, why don't you raise debt and then see who needs depreciation? I said, well, how do you do that? And one of our capital investors, she's got well over 7 figures with us, and she lends us all the money on a deal, whether we get bank debt first and her, or she does all the money on the deal. And then since it's only us and her, we don't need all this depreciation. I say, hey, ma'am, I'll give you 50% of the depreciation. But since she made a loan to it, she doesn't need to be an equity owner, but I can still give her the depreciation that she can use because she has basis in the property. And if I knew some of those tricks of the trade early on, it would have been a different conversation based on who needs what. But again, it's all a learning experience, and we'll navigate it as we go.
So how much? I was talking to Slack about this, and he kind of confused me on it. Can I just give up depreciation in these deals if they invest $1? He told me it has to be an equal amount to the amount of equity that they own in the property, and I cannot just assign depreciation.
I don't know how. I don't think that's true. You can allocate the depreciation however you want. I was asked to sponsor a deal, and the guy who asked me to sponsor the deal said, look, I'll tee up this beautiful deal for you, but I want all the depreciation. I'll put in, whatever, 50 grand, but I want all the bonus depreciation to come to me. You can allocate it however you want. It does not need to be pro rata share to the dollar amounts they put in. So let's use $100,000. If we all put in 33,000 to get to this $100,000, you would think that it would be split in thirds, but no, you could say, well, Jason has a tax implication. We each
I need
put in
2/3 of
33
it.
grand,
Yeah.
but you get my depreciation because I don't need it right now, and you get 66%. Strat gets 33, and I get 1 because I don't need it. So you can allocate it however you want, and that's how the big guys raise a lot of money, by allocating depreciation in that sense, because it's a big boy game there, and people are chasing that.
So
And it's all about what you keep too, dude. And so it's like if you have a very high income earner, it could be a doctor, lawyer, another business owner that doesn't own a bunch of properties. They've got a big tax problem every single year. So if you can pass on most or all of the depreciation and it gives them a 6-figure, that's a real savings, dude. It isn't like an imaginary number on paper. It's like a real thing, dude. And so that's really good.
Yeah. So you can, I'm learning the finger thing. So you can
Yeah.
exchange, like one way to do it. Some guys say, hey man, put 50 grand in, I'll give you back $200,000 or $100,000 in depreciation, but I'm not paying you any return on that money. Like that's one way to do it if they really, really, really need that tax money. Or you might say, well, I'm offering 10%, 12%, but I'm going to pay you 8%, but I'm going to give you more depreciation to offset all this plus everything else you have going on. They have to have meaningful basis in the property. I'm not an accountant. Go check with your accountant.
Go
and honestly,
check with your CPA, everybody that's listening on this.
And honestly, our investor that did it, I was fighting with her CPA to say, you're wrong. And he finally broke and he said, you know what? I went back and reread. I'm a little bit behind the times. You're 100% right. She should use this depreciation. Game on. Let's do it. So
I love that.
I just raised $500,000 today from her because she wants more depreciation now. She's like, hey, what deals you got? I said, well, it's going to be a minute. She's like, I'm taking them. I'll put up all the money. You need $1.5 million on this next deal. I got you. I want half the depreciation. Don't take on any investors.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow.
So
because we gave away pro rata depreciation to where if I would have known that, because some of your investors can't take advantage of it because they're not a real estate professional. So I would have never given it to them. I would have taken all the depreciation. Right. And then that way I could have gotten a significantly larger tax write-off on some of these things.
Yeah. Or you're going to take an extra 10% and left them something for when they sell it.
Yeah.
When you sell it and then they don't get smacked with it. But yeah, dude, there's a million ways to skin the cat. And some of it's just simplicity. This is all stuff that I'm starting to learn as we raise more and more capital because people start asking these questions and it forces your hand to learn. Again, going from 10 million to 20 million, right? Like we got to continue to learn what's next to figure out how to stay with the times.
Jason, you got any comments in that IG chat?
Yeah, somebody just posted. He said, we need a damn course on this. I don't get what they mean that they'll take on the depreciation. And I get it. And so some of this stuff is kind of next level things in a condensed version of it, Miguel. Depreciation is basically the tax benefit that you get by owning real estate. So you have your active income on one side. You have real estate here that you can depreciate, and you can use that depreciation. Think of it as like what Ian's talking about. I passed $100,000 of depreciation over to his investor. That $100,000 can be used to offset the income that they're making in their active business or their W-2 job. So in theory, it lowers the burden that you got to pay to the IRS, right? And it allows you to keep more money. And so it's definitely a next level thing, but I'm really actually, this kind of went in a different direction, but I think it's good because I think for us, dude, like nobody was talking to me about depreciation when I was little either, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't know what the fuck any of this stuff meant when I first got started either, dude. And it's like, you gotta be privy to these type of conversations. That's why we like to share this stuff with you guys, right? Then it sets off a little spidey sense in your head. You've got to go do a little legwork and go on YouTube and learn and read, and then come back and ask some more questions. And that's how you develop it. That's how the progression works, Miguel. So now that the seed's been planted, your job is to go learn a little bit more about it.
And you only get it, from my understanding, if you're a real estate professional. And that's why I asked Ian that, because some of your investors, from my understanding, cannot take advantage of it. Right? Like they just flat out cannot take advantage of it because they're a W-2 employee. And so if your wife or you can become a real estate professional somehow, is what I tell my friends, that is what needs to be done, because then you can actively take advantage of the depreciation. I think that's all the millionaires and everybody who says every millionaire is made in real estate. No, every millionaire buys real estate because it saves them so much money with this depreciation.
Yeah.
Like that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. And we're talking about this very high level, guys, right? So everybody's situation is going to be different. It's important that you do your research and just make sure you don't do one size fits all.
There's two triggers. One, if you make there's a magic number on your tax form called AGI. And don't quote me, but if it's under, say, 125 grand, I think, you can use the depreciation. Doesn't matter what it is. And then if you're over that 125, you need to be a real estate professional to use it in real time. Otherwise, passive losses go against passive gains. So you lose money because of depreciation on real estate, but then you sold off stocks. They would offset if they're long-term to long-term. So quick overview. You guys should have Slack on. I'm sure he could chirp you guys for hours on that one.
That would be good.
All right. What was our other questions? You got any other questions in there?
No,
Jason?
not right now.
Let me, someone said building the culture is a different animal in your company. It for sure is. Someone said you need to have a target to go after. That's from way earlier. You 100% got to have a target. I think we're animals. Like, we are very primal. I go back to this all the time. We are really no different than most animals. We are chasing something at all times, and we've been wired this way for years in order to exist. You have to be chasing a goal. If you're just wandering around aimlessly, you won't get anywhere. Yeah. Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Read it. It's the best book on self-development I've ever read in my life. And then what else do we have in here? Having to educate sounds the hard part. I don't know what he means. Next question we had in here. Bro, Jason, what's been your biggest hiring mistake?
My biggest hiring mistake, it's been two different things. One, relying fully on instinct and not using any type of data or tools or anything to kind of offset how I feel. I do feel like I have a really good instinct for judging and reading people, but as we've done, like predictive index is what we've been using more recently, right? As we've done a lot of these personality tests, and there's all these different tools out there that allow us to really see somebody can interview really well. And I mean, if you think about it, when we go in for an interview, that's when we are always putting our fucking best foot forward. So it's really hard to just judge based off of a first interview or a second interview, because that's that person trying to show the best possible version of themselves. So do we have some data or something that we can put them through that supports that they're the right fit for the role? And I think that's probably, once we started trusting my instinct, which I think is really good, and it's been on point for the most part, and layering it on top of that, it's helped me miss some potential roadblocks with some of my employees.
What about you, Ian?
I would say probably not hiring sooner. You know, we primal instinct, everything you guys are talking about, just run it to the max till it blows up and someone's like, I need help, you know. And I would say that's our biggest mistake, is maybe not hiring more often and recognizing that we need help in certain areas to create the bandwidth, and that there is cash to do it. And the more you pour in and more people you hire, the wider and better you can get to grow a bigger, better team.
That was my biggest problem too. That was a huge one. And it's because we got there doing it on our own, and I stayed there for way too long. So I think if you're one of those people that you just grind it out and you just will, like at the beginning, we're just through the sheer force of our own will. We're like, fuck it, we're going to make this happen no matter what, dude. And I don't care if I got to work all day, every day. And that stops working after a certain point. So I think that's a huge one. The other thing, and this popped into my head when Ian was talking, was a mistake that I made that I've gotten better at, is paying too much. When you overcompensate at the beginning, very hard, if not damn near impossible, to walk that back, dude. And there's just you can't, it's impossible, dude. And you think you're doing the right thing at the beginning because you're like, yeah, dude, let's just compensate this person, pay them great. You know what I mean? And then it just reaches a point where it's detrimental to the company to keep raising it. You set such a bad standard because you're constantly like giving them more and more and more, and it doesn't work. And that's always worked against me, dude. So you do not need to overcompensate. Ian talked about that at the beginning. Some people are motivated by money. Other people want to feel like they're progressing in their job. And that doesn't mean pay. That means like they're learning and they're being tasked with new challenges and they're becoming a better real estate professional. Some people like the culture and want to be a part of a really cool team, and they want some flexibility, and you got to figure out what it is. And it's not, most of the time, guys, it's not money. And we make it always about money, and it's not.
I would say one of my biggest mistakes is I have over delegated, because like I started a company where I couldn't do it all on my own. And then I have over promoted with titles do not give people fancy titles because there is nowhere for them to fucking go.
Mm-hmm.
I have made massive mistakes with that to where we called someone our COO. Jesus Christ, bro, it's $1 million company. Like, you have no
There's
COO.
no COO right now.
There is no room for that person to fucking grow. Now they don't handle things well. Like, it is, do not, like, and I got this from Layla Hormozy. The titles are so important when you are hiring people. You want to make it sound fancy on the front end, but you don't want to give them some C executive level title when in all reality, that's not what it is, because you're going to have to end up hiring someone over them. They're going to get butthurt. They're going to be furious. You're going to lose out on a good player to where if you would have just played it the right way, you could have just kept them in that role. They know that they're growing. You have an honest conversation with them. Hey, I don't know what to do. You don't know what to do. We need to bring in someone who has this previous experience so we can take that next step in the company.
Yep.
That's a big one, dude. I was thinking that as you were saying it, like the mistakes that we made from titling and paying too much immediately, because again, it does go back to like, yo, if someone offered us like whatever, 150 grand, you'd be like, dude, I'm gonna work my ass off because that means there's 250 grand on the other side of that. I'm just bust my ass, right? Like, but that's why we all own the businesses. Versus like someone's like, oh, dude, I scored $150 and I can just stay status quo. And then sometimes you got too much stuff going on, you don't hold them accountable, and things happen and they fall apart really fast. And then it's really hard to fire people because nobody likes doing that shit. That's equally as hard. So
yeah, that is the hard part. What are you going to say, Jason?
So we got a comment here, Loans by Money Manny said, what is that point? What kind of salary should someone be making? What type of salary should somebody be making? Now is the time to hire someone to go to the next level. So how do you guys gauge that? I think it's kind of an open-ended question, right? But how do you guys gauge what somebody should be making? And I do feel, and I'm experiencing this right now, the real estate market, the way that it is, people that are looking to hire right now, I think you've got a little bit of leverage, dude, because the real estate market has compressed and it's not always going to be like that. So right now is a time for a growing company where they can potentially hire very talented people. And I'm not saying underpay. Okay. So there's a difference between, like, I'm not saying pay somebody what they're not worth, but that's not overpaying. Right. So how do you guys gauge like what's acceptable to pay based on their talent level, based on the market? What's some tips you can give?
Yeah. To me, it's, I think you would be surprised what people are actually willing to work for. And when you put it out there, the market's going to tell you, right? Like, luckily, we've been able to hit our network of people and get good hires. And it's never really been, that's never been the hard part. But when you start advertising on LinkedIn, you're going to notice by the quality of interviews you're doing to say, well, did the market meet me or not? Okay, well, then I got to keep pushing up until you find the right people. I mean, that's a really hard question, but if you spend time on your organization, and I can't say that we have this beautiful flow chart laying around this office somewhere, but we all kind of know, all right, Dan and Ian make X because we pay ourselves. Ryan, who runs our operation, and you see I don't use COO even though he is, Ryan, who runs our operation, right? He then has, we know how much he makes. Then it's like, as you branch down off of there, to me, you just kind of follow that along and make sure that you want the differences there. And remember your W-2 days. Nobody ever liked when you and the boss made the same amount of money because you just tell the boss to go pound sand. It's like, yo, bro, I make the same as you. Get out of here, you know? So you need to have those levels. And I wish there was a more clear-cut answer. Entry is 25 grand, and this is that. And it's not that easy, dude. You got to do what's right. Like Ryan, who runs our operation, we love that man to death. He gets action on every single deal that we do now. He gets equity in every single deal. Like it's hard to think about how much we're compensating him, but you can't write that on paper on job offer day one. He earned that shit, dude. That man busted his ass and built this company side by side with us.
Yeah. And if you want to make more, make yourself irreplaceable, right? If you don't want to be the business owner, but you want to be well compensated, be so fucking good at your job that if I, as the business owner, right, have to think about like, damn, what would my life look like tomorrow if this guy or this girl was not here? Then you get to have a little bit more leverage. So just be great, dude. Be great and make yourself irreplaceable, and the money will absolutely follow you.
For whenever we have, because I guess we own a staffing company, we do market research, bro. Like I go and I see what everyone else is paying, and then I'll pay a little bit more. I'm for overpaying people slightly above market because you get significantly better talent for a nominal wage to you. Am I for like significantly overpaying people? No. But if you can do the market research, you know what it's at, and you can overpay a little bit. What's a nominal fee to us is a significant amount of money for the person who's looking for that job.
Yeah.
Right. And then if you are looking to make your first hire, you need to identify what bottlenecks you have in your business and what you are doing that's not making you money. Right. That in and of itself is what it is. Right. That is how you're going to solve those problems. You need to sit down, and I'm guessing if you're just getting going and you're a mortgage guy, all of that back end shit that goes to the mortgages, someone needs to handle that. And you need to be out there slinging phone calls, essentially.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think Patrick David Betts says it the best, and this is like slashes with hiring is like we view everyone as entrepreneurs, and we expect them to operate autonomously on their own and say, hey, this is how I'm going to handle this. Okay, great. There's a level of compensation that comes with that, but there's also a level of compensation that's earned because you're busting your ass, you're helping us grow. And again, this goes back to our deals meeting to say, hey, team, what do you guys want to do? If they wanted to do 10 deals a year, okay, cool. We're going to hopefully make more money. They're going to get compensated, with that because they wanted to do more deals. Or it's like, this year everyone's got kids, shit's going on. Let's chill. All right. We all know our status quo baseline, so that's those are things that we've been working on to make the company perform better, but everybody now at the point we're at, everybody gets to share in that action. I don't want to call it an ESOP, but something along those lines where there's profit sharing to everybody because we can't do what we do without everybody that's riding with us on both sides of the plate.
So Charlie Munger says, show me your incentives, I'll show you your future. Like he just died, but the best investor, him and Warren Buffett are the best investors over the last 100 years. And their number one thing they focus on in all the companies they invest in is like, what's the incentive program for those employees? Mm-hmm. Because if everybody's rowing in the right direction, everybody gets rewarded for the right things are going to go a lot easier because all humans ever are always going to act in their own best self-interest. So if you can dictate what that is, what their goals are, that's going to go a lot easier for you. I got one more question, then we can tie this up if you guys want to. How many questions are you asking? You got a 4:00, Jason?
No, yeah, we can go a little bit longer. I've got a question from somebody in there for Ian. He goes, just curious for that lender that you had, the lady that gave you the 1.5 or opted to, right? He's curious just how you met her, how the connection initially started. And lots of people have questions about raising money. They hear us talking very openly about, we raised all this money, but it feels like an alien concept to people when they're brand new, right? So how did that talk initially start, and then what did you do to nurture that relationship?
This is kind of a long story. So we had written a book called Subsidized because we were in the single family game. People ask us questions all the time, and I was selling books, telling people about how to do Section 8 rentals. And I get a reach out from a wholesaler one day. He says, hey, this lady wants to sell her 76 unit apartment building. I said, cool. Why don't you buy it, man? I give this guy so much credit from a maturity standpoint. He goes, it's not what I do. I don't want to buy it. It's too much for me. I said, holy shit. Like, I don't have that maturity level. Cool,
yeah,
dude.
That's refreshing. Yeah. What a refreshing comment from him.
Yeah,
dude. That's good.
And he goes, look, I just want to make 50 grand. I want to help her out. She's a private lender for me. I said, okay, man. Well, how can I meet her? And he goes, so we set it up, and he goes, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you as I'm hanging up, he goes, she wants to owner finance 90% of this $5 million acquisition. I was like, and the guys, this is 2019. Like, Pace Morby's not out there running around talking to subject to and everything else, right? And I was like, wait, what? He's like, yeah. We'll talk about it in the meeting. So I walk over to the other office and say, yo, Dan, so-and-so just called me. There's a 76 unit apartment building for sale, 90% owner financing. This is a scam. No effing way. We're not going. I said, look, dude, I'm going to the meeting. I don't care what you do. So we go over to the meeting. We sit down. We have a conversation with her. Great conversation. We hit it off. And we think we're in the bag. She worked in like the jail system somewhere in one of the departments. So like we kind of connected on some public service stuff. I thought we had this in the bag, and she had called a few other people, and this other group won. And I said, dude, you got to be kidding me. So we're getting ready to buy a 34 unit apartment building. So I call her back. I said, hey, I know you're coming into some money because you're selling that building to somebody else. Are you interested? I thought we had a really good connection. Are you interested in lending us some money on this deal in West Virginia? And she says, I don't know why you called me today, but the contract's still not signed. Mind you, this is 4 weeks later. She goes, the contract's still not signed. I think I screwed up. I want to go with you guys. I'm calling my lawyer right now. I said, what? So this, like I said, it's a really long story. So we go and meet her lawyer the next day. Lawyer says, there's no contract in place. What terms you want? Sat there, typed it, signed it as we walked out the office.
Wow.
Me and Dan, like two little schoolgirls walking out the door. We get to the parking lot. We're like, yeah, we did it. Dude, we were so pumped. But then we're like, holy crap, we need to raise $1 million to buy this deal. Now, guys, we have 100-something single-family houses. We've flipped over 100 houses. We're buying a 34-unit apartment building. I'm like, I need $1 million. I got to know 40 people with 25 grand. So I write everybody's name down that I think has 25 grand. Dude, I struggled so hard to raise that $1 million because it was the first time we offered equity. And we got to the closing table by the skin of our teeth, and we raised the $1 million. And that deal right there, we bought it June of 2020. So the height of COVID, all the BS. 16 months later, we were all in for like $5.5 million. 16 months later, we got a $9.8 million valuation by doing improvements, refinanced it out, took out almost $2 million. Dan and I collected 7 figures worth, quit our jobs the next day. It was the most beautiful thing ever.
Yes.
But then what happened? She just got back $4 million because her mom had passed. So I just kind of eased into it. I said, hey, Judy, it was a pleasure. You know, we paid you $20,000 a month for the past X number of months. We have this storage deal coming up. Are you interested in putting some money in? She said, yeah, I'll put in $250. Okay. And it was another deal. Hey, you interested? Cool. Another $250. And then we just built that relationship by performing on paying on her money, doing exactly what we told her we're going to do. And that relationship has built since then because now she knows she financed a $5 million asset to us. We get credibility. We paid her $20,000 a month for 16 months that supported her mother while she was on her deathbed. And then when she started investing with us, now she's getting a return on the capital that she was giving us. And she's like, why? I can't keep up. It just keeps growing. I got to give you guys money. And that's how we built the relationship. So
can you imagine? No, dude, can you imagine? I want to go back even one step further. Had you not given her that follow-up call, dude, just to check in with her, can you imagine how different your life would be, bro? It was that one call, bro, that you said, you know what, fuck it. Even though we didn't get the deal, most people are going to be little babies about it and be pissy and then, you know, just tell themselves some story and never even have the courage to call. And you weren't even calling. It sounds like the follow-up on the deal. You're calling to see if she was open to lending.
Correct.
And you did the deal and pulled out $2 million tax-free. And now you've got a lender that just doing it. It's from one fucking follow-up call, dude. Like that shit is so crazy when you think about it like that. It's that one call really changes your entire business in your life, dude. That's wild.
And I would take it a step back even more. And like, I literally got goosebumps as you say that, because it's like, it's pretty wild to think, because we had such a good rapport in this meeting. And I was just like, man, it's so weird she went with this other group, but okay, I know there's a lot of people chirping in her ear. Once the commercial brokers started hearing about it, they're all chirping in her ear. And I'm just like, man, that was weird. But take it a step back further, when I went to Stratton's event out in Bluffdale or wherever we were in Utah, and he was talking about marketing, and I didn't do a good job of conveying it. But dude, writing that book, putting our information out there, that's what changed her lives, dude. If I never wrote that book, she would never know who we are. You know what I mean? Yep. And I think that is even exponentially more wild than doing that, spending $1,500 writing a book, kind of trying to market it. I thought it was a failure, in my opinion, even though we sold some copies. That one book turned into almost 8 figures now of money. If you count the asset purchase, the refinance, and the amount of money she has with us, that is literally an 8-figure book in my mind.
Bro, my comments are going crazy. Everybody's freaking congrats, dude, saying what a crazy deal. So everybody's showing love in the comments, bro. What a story, dude. I fucking love stories like that, dude. Yeah. That type of shit gets me so hyped, man. Like, it just makes me think, because we've all of us on this call have had those like one pivotal things where we caught this one break and then everything was different after that break, dude. And I'm sure we can all go in, but that type of stuff gets me so juiced, dude. Congratulations, bro.
Thank you. But I would also say it's the testament of hitting singles. Everyone's like, how do you do commercial real estate? How do you do Dude, I was not mature enough to do commercial real estate. I had to hit a fuck ton of singles doing single family real estate, and then I figured it out. And that's kind of what I talked about at Deal Champ Summit. It was like, look, guys, I think this is the greatest asset in the world, but you might need to do some single family.
Pay attention, everybody that's listening, dude, because you don't just jump into 9-figure deals. Like what the shit that Ian's talking about, you don't just roll out of bed from your W-2 job and never have done anything, and then all of a sudden you're smacking grand slams out of the park like this, dude. You have to cut your teeth. Now, are there certain people that are just bred or wired differently that they can make that jump? Yes, right? But that's the 1%. I'm the same way, dude. Like I had to do a bunch of small deals, dude. I had to do a bunch of small deals before I ever had the balls to go do like this hotel that we're doing now, or look at even some of the things that we're even looking at making offers now. It happened with 10 fucking years of experience, bro. And like in the trenches, just grinding, doing these small ones. And eventually you level up and grow.
Yeah, man, it's fun. Just keep hitting singles, boys. The grand slams will fall out of nowhere, and you won't expect it. And when it happens, it's the coolest thing in the world.
Fucking done, dude. Love it.
I
think that's it. I think that's it. We didn't even talk about the title. We're gonna have to change the title and do it to something else.
Sorry, boys. I derailed the whole conversation.
It's all good, dude. It ended up working out great.
Bro. Because like the big thing for us is like it has to be entertaining for us too, and like we learn from it too. Right. And so this is like the most animated Jason's been in like fucking months.
I was pumped, dude. I was freaking pumped. Everybody wants to know your IG handle. Ian, are you on IG? What's the handle?
I did not look into the boys at Deal Champ Summit. It's still Equity Warehouse, Equity_Warehouse. I'm active on there. If you want to talk, I'm always happy to chirp. And I'm out there, and you can find us at equitywarehouse.com. We do a case study on that multifamily deal, the White House Manor Apartments that she had owner financed to us. And you can see some other case studies of how we set it up to go back to how we raise capital. It's all that. It's a funnel. Show people case studies. It's all on there. Check it out. Love to talk to everyone.
Bro, I love it. Any parting words for the people?
I mean, I think I'll go back exactly what I said about hitting singles. You got to swing the bat. You can't hit the single if you don't swing the bat. It's the number one thing you can do. If you're scared to do real estate, go swing the bat. You're doing single family and you don't know how to do commercial, go swing the bat. Dude, I spent how many countless nights as a fireman sitting out at the corner where they burned down the CVS during the riots, looking at deals, trying to figure it out. Swing the bat. You want to do it? Get out there and go do it.
I love it. Observation is not the same as participation. Watching from the sidelines, guys, is not the same as playing the game, bro. You guys got to start getting in the game. Swing the bat, man. That's it.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much for coming on, bro. Guys, do not forget to like and subscribe.